Imagine, the person you couldn't stop thinking about suddenly disappears. No texts, no calls, no explanation. At first, you tell yourself you don't care. You drop your phone on the bed and walk away. You tell yourself silence is fine. But 3 days later, they somehow occupy more space in your mind than when they were actually sitting right next to you. Your brain begins to loop. You check your phone every 7 minutes. You look at a blank screen, waiting for a notification that never comes. Why? Why does silence often become louder than words? Why does someone pulled away suddenly feel 10 times more valuable? The answer isn't romance. It isn't destiny. It's psychology. And what your mind is doing right now is part of a dark, evolutionary glitch. Meet Daniel. Daniel isn't a tragic character. He's normal. He works, hangs out with friends, and considers himself rational. Then he meets Sarah. At first, things are simple. Late-night conversations that last until 2 a.m. Quick text replies. That subtle, warm hit of dopamine every time her name pops up on his screen. Then, slowly, the climate shifts. The replies take 3 hours instead of 3 minutes. The tone gets shorter. The warm, effortless flow begins to freeze over. Daniel notices. And the second he notices, his behavior changes. He stares at her last seen status. He drafts a message, types 3 sentences, deletes them all, and settles on a cold, neutral, "Hey." No reply for 6 hours. His stomach turns into a tight knot. He tries to go to sleep, but his eyes keep opening, drawn to the blue light of his phone screen. He checks her Instagram story. She posted a photo of a coffee cup. Who is she with? Is she moving on? Did I say something wrong? Daniel decides to do what millions of people do every single day. He decides to initiate no contact. He promises himself he won't text her first. He puts the phone across the room. He tells himself he is in control. But 24 hours into the silence, Daniel feels worse than he did when they were arguing. Why does pulling away feel like torture? Here is what is actually happening inside Daniel's brain. When Sarah was texting him consistently, his brain released a steady stream of dopamine. It was predictable. Predictable reward feels comfortable. But it doesn't create obsession. Psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered something fascinating in the mid-20th century using a simple experiment with pigeons. If a pigeon presses a lever and gets food every single time, it presses the lever only when it's hungry. Predictable reward creates stability. But if the lever gives food unpredictably, sometimes on the first press, sometimes on the 10th, sometimes not at all, the pigeon goes crazy. It presses the lever compulsively, over and over, ignoring everything else around it. This is called intermittent reinforcement. It is the exact mechanism that makes slot machines in Las Vegas so wildly addictive. When Sarah stopped replying regularly, Daniel's brain didn't register a simple rejection. It registered an unpredictable reward schedule. His brain began to crave the win of her next text message, far more than it ever did when she was easy to reach. The silence didn't kill his interest. The silence amplified his addiction. But something even stranger happens when you stop texting someone completely. Most people believe that if you stop reaching out, the other person simply forgets you. They assume that out of sight means out of mind. Neuroscience tells us the exact opposite. Because of a psychological phenomenon discovered in 1927 by a Soviet psychologist named Zeigarnik, silence doesn't cause people to forget. Silence forces them to remember. Zeigarnik was sitting in a busy restaurant in Vienna when she noticed a curious pattern among the waiters. A waiter could remember complex, unpaid orders for a table of 12 people with perfect accuracy. Every drink, every side dish, every modification. But the moment the bill was paid, the waiter forgot the entire order almost instantly. Why? Because the human brain hates unfinished tasks. When an experience is left incomplete, the mind creates an open loop. It keeps the memory active in your working consciousness, constantly reminding you of it until it reaches resolution. This is the Zeigarnik Effect. When Daniel was constantly texting Sarah, begging for clarity, trying to fix things, he was giving her closure every single day. He was resolving the loop for her. She never had to wonder, does Daniel like me? Is he thinking about me? Where is he? She already had the answer. The task was complete. Her brain could safely file Daniel away and move on. But the moment Daniel went silent, the loop reopened. Now, look at what happens on the other side of the screen. 5 days pass. Sarah notices she hasn't received a text from Daniel. At first, she feels a sense of relief. She has space. She carries on with her week. Day 8 arrives. Still nothing. No story views. No passive-aggressive posts. No late night, "Hey, hope you're doing well." Suddenly, her brain hits a wall of uncertainty. Did he find someone else? Was he just playing games with me? Was I not as important to him as I thought? Notice what just happened. The emotional dynamic completely inverted. Daniel is no longer the one seeking answers. Sarah is now the one carrying an open loop. This brings us to the fundamental law of human desire. We do not value things based on how useful they are. We value things based on how scarce they are. Behavioral economists call this loss aversion. Nobel Prize-winning research proved that human beings feel the pain of a loss roughly twice as strongly as they feel the joy of an equivalent gain. Losing $20 hurts significantly more than finding $20 feels good. When someone is always available to you, when their attention is unlimited, free, and instantly accessible, your brain automatically assigns zero economic value to their presence. They become like oxygen, crucial, but invisible. You don't wake up in the morning and thank the air for being in the room. You just breathe it until someone pumps the air out of the room. The moment the air disappears, it is the only thing you can think about. No contact is the sudden removal of oxygen. It strips away the assumption of permanent availability. It converts a guaranteed resource into a scarce asset. And human nature dictates that the second something becomes scarce, we want it back. By week 3 of silence, Sarah is checking Daniel's profile. She scrolls past an old photo of them. And here is where the memory trick occurs. When we are overwhelmed by someone's constant presence, our brain focuses on their flaws and the friction between us. But when that person vanishes completely, an evolutionary survival mechanism kicks in. Our memory begins to perform selective editing. The bad moments fade into the background. The good moments, the laughter, the late-night talks, the feeling of warmth light up in sharp contrast. Sarah starts to feel a quiet wave of regret. She picks up her phone. She types a short message. "Hey, saw this and thought of you." She hits send. The lever has been pulled from the other side. This is the point where millions of relationship guides, self-help gurus, and internet strategists tell you that you've won. They tell you that no contact is the ultimate psychological chess move. A secret tactic to force your ex to miss you, regret leaving, and come crawling back. They teach you to use silence as a weapon, to play a game of emotional chicken until the other person breaks first. But here is where most people make the biggest mistake of their lives. Because neuroscience discovered something deeply uncomfortable about this entire cycle. If you are using no contact as a strategy to manipulate someone else into coming back, you aren't actually practicing no contact at all. You are just holding your breath. Think about what happens when you use silence to control someone else. You count the days. Day 4, day 12, day 21. Every time your phone buzzes, your heart drops into your stomach. You spend hours analyzing whether they saw your post, whether their new playlist means something about you, whether they are hurting as much as you are. You think you are being strong because you haven't sent a text. But psychologically, you are still completely controlled by them. Your silence isn't power. It is just hidden noise. You are acting like a prisoner, counting days on a cell wall, waiting for the guard to bring back your freedom. And here is the psychological truth that no one tells you. If someone comes back only because you made yourself scarce, they didn't come back because they suddenly value you. They came back because they couldn't tolerate the withdrawal of their own validation supply. The moment you become available again, the moment you give them back full access to your energy, the scarcity disappears. The unpredictable reward becomes predictable again, and the entire painful cycle resets from scratch. This is the true purpose of the experiment. No contact was never meant to be a game you play on someone else. It is an experiment you run on yourself. When you remove the noise of another person's validation, a terrifying quiet fills the room. And in that quiet, your real attachment patterns are exposed. It exposes your deep fear of being forgotten. It exposes your belief that you are only valuable when you are useful to someone else. It exposes your inability to sit with emotional uncertainty without reaching for a quick fix to numb the pain. When you stop chasing, you are forced to turn around and look at the person who was doing the chasing all along. You realize that the anxiety keeping you up at 3 a.m. wasn't caused by their absence. Their absence simply shined a spotlight on a void that was already inside you long before you ever met them. You were using their attention to cover up a silence you were too afraid to face on your own. Silence was never your weapon. It was your mirror. No contact doesn't reveal whether someone loves you. It reveals whether you can live without needing someone else's unpredictable approval to feel complete. It shows you who depends on quick validation, who fears the unknown, and who is truly capable of standing alone. If you hold your silence long enough, something remarkable happens. The anxiety begins to peak, and then, slowly, it drops. The compulsive need to check their screen fades into a calm indifference. The obsession clears out, making space for your own life to fill the room again. And you realize the ultimate truth of this entire experiment. Sometimes, the person who comes back after weeks of silence isn't them. It's you, a version of yourself that finally stopped chasing. A version of yourself that realized your worth was never supposed to be an open loop for someone else to close. So ask yourself, what if the silence you've been so afraid of is actually the only place where you can finally meet yourself?